the leader of Rage and Ruin, executor of Dark Horde, and one of the former executive council members of GHA.
Awesome.
And Haiyooo, how about an intro from you?
All right, I'm Haiyooo. I'm one of the officers, the PvP, I think they labeled Supreme Commander from Xanadu, one of the founding corps from the Golden Horde. Other than that, I was an admiral until here recently in the Golden Horde, and I have just in the last few minutes before this recording, we've dropped our tags and starting a new transition. So we are all neutral right now.
Oh, wow. So you two were also part of the Dark Horde then, yes?
Not originally. We are, I guess, adopted Dark Hordeites. I don't know the wording there, but we joined the Dark Horde because we made the decision when Sovereignty come out to join in the Geminate side, and it just made sense to be in Dark Horde.
Yeah. Very nice. And then how about you, Neon? What's going on? What's good?
Hey, I am also known as the Big Blue Boat. That's like my in-game name. This is paying tribute to the Big Red Boat, my friend from Goonswarm of EO. Anyways, like you said before, host of Voice of the Horde. I used to do a bunch of things for the Alliance. We'll get to that later, I guess.
Yeah. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. One thing I wanted to touch base on was the history of the Dark Horde and how that became and what they are today. So Zel, if you can break into that.
Yeah, I could tell you. So, I mean, originally before we became Rage and Ruin, we were Dark Intentions, and Dark Intentions started off over in Fountain. We were a young corp when the game started, and over time we grew in size like everybody did. It was everything was really hyped, so we ended up forming two corporations, DIT and DLG, and we took everybody and ran down to Impasse because we wanted to get into some better space. So we took 100 players one day and we all flew down there, and we said apparently that's when we met IOP, Iron Star, and we found out Op4S was living there at the time. So they saw our numbers and respected us and said, hey, why don't you just join us? So we formed OP4D at the time, and we stayed in Op4S for a while. As everybody knows, it kind of started to implode, but prior to that, Slits and I saw that the early signs. I've played this game for a long time, and I can tell when there's a big implosion about to happen to an alliance. There's certain key factors that we look for, and I was telling Slits, hey, we need to look to leave this place because there's a lot of issues with the leadership. So prior to that, we started looking around. I believe Golden Horde was just forming, and they had their big battle. And we actually knew Bojangles and Ozier prior to back when we were in Fountain. That's when we bumped into them, and they hit us up and they said, "Hey, why don't you just come join us? We're trying to do something new. We're going to do democracy, and we're going to try and and we said, okay, how's we were looking at their structure and everything was really organized, and it seemed like a different group of people, that actually wanted to try and make this work, and even though it's notorious for not working. And we said, you know what, we're going to give it a shot. It's Echoes, it's new. Let's try something. So yeah, we moved over to Geminate thereafter. We pulled with us TBD. The TBD Alliance was somebody that was going to join us originally when we were OP4D, our old alliance that we formed, and then we rebranded. We formed a new alliance, and that was called Dark Horde, so that it would resemble the Golden Horde brand. And then we moved everybody to Geminate, and that's how we were born. We started placing infrastructure there and getting everybody organized in Geminate.
Tonight. All right.
So, Zel, we'll start with you and your influence in the GHA and some of the decisions that you've made, the influence you've had on the players in GHA, what you did in the GHA to make it so successful. Well, successful for the time. So,
oh geez, that's a long story. All right, so I mean, GHA, they were formed, we joined GHA back in, I think it was August of last year. So since then, like we're a very active group. We don't like to be just anybody. Like we actually like to be. Our community is really built on being active and getting things done, right? So, when we first came to GHA, we saw that there was a lot of opportunity to help improve it, and then there was definitely things that we needed to make sure that were in place so that it could be successful. And like I said, I've played this game for a long time, so I really identified some points that I really just wanted to get involved with, and one of those points was the military. So right off the back in those days, it was Raw Dog, Storm, and Haiyooo that were the admirals of G. Well, first it was Raw, and then they formed the Council of Raw, Storm, and Haiyooo to lead the military. And I just started off as I don't know how like a guy that I just wanted to help out. So I worked towards just helping the military, helping them get organized. I worked alongside Paladin for a while, and then on top of that, I was leading a bunch of fleets. And because we were at those times we were just starting the Eve Coalition. So we went to war with VBB, and we had to wake up really early to get fleets down over to Genesis space because they were fighting PIBC and Death Phantom and stuff. So I guess that's kind of like where we started, right? It was really in the military. I guess from there over time, I started to earn some respect from Haiyooo and the others, and I started to work your way up. When you're in the military, that's how it works, right? You lead fleets, people recognize you, and they put you to work even more. So that's just how it goes in Eve, right?
Yeah.
Over time. This is where it gets really busy, right? Because my corporation, DIT at the time, was a member of the SPC. I was the co-CEO of DIT. So I was juggling multiple hats at the time. So I was helping on the front end, actually helping the Alliance, get through things, and then at the same time was the military. I was playing a military role. I was promoted into the regional general slot. I remember I did an interview with Neon back then about that.
I remember.
And then from there, I took control of Gemma. I really was focused on making it the most defensible region for GHA. So I was working with corporations to get them placed in the proper spots. I released defense plans. I released plans for patrols. You name it. Any military activity you saw in Germany, I was pretty actively involved in, and then the offensives kind of just came with that because VVV was in Vale, so working with the allies and stuff. So that's kind of where I guess my career in the military took off. I was being a general. Things started to change a lot. I remember Haiyooo stepped down for a while, which was terrible. And then as he stepped down, I was promoted into being an admiral for GHA. It was just a bunch of work on both ends, right? So we had the admiralty life. That's when pretty much when we started to experience some issues. I remember Captain Benzi left, J-Ski left.
J-Ski.
And J-Ski was an awesome guy. And then we started having that level of internal drama that was actually happening at the same time. So Raw Dog was becoming more inactive because he was focused on that, and that's essentially the SPC was like being accused of being an oligarchy, and to an extent, they were trying to change things because if we want to get into that, I guess the kind of model that GHA was wanting to be, at least being a democracy. We weren't a democracy at first. We definitely weren't. There had to be a transition. We'll get to that later. But at that time, that's when the real struggle started to happen, and it became apparent, that we were not sticking with our word of being a democracy. So it caused a civil war, and groups broke off. I mean, that's and during those divisions and fights and stuff, deals are being made. We had to, like, our entire situation changed. We couldn't get help from the Eve Coalition, so we started backing down with things with them, and it became a mess. Like, we had so many different things falling apart all at once, and people were stepping down. So that was like really, really tough. A part of the military fallout that happened in the Civil War. I mean, we lost Raw, we lost a large portion of our generals, a large portion of our FCs that all left with that Civil War. So it was just me and Storm for a while. And even Storm was being like, he was very busy real life, so he was fairly inactive at the time. So we were just left alone essentially to rebuild everything and try and figure out how we're going to help GHA get through this. Because there was just so much drama going on. The Aubriel situation also was around that time. So a lot of the corporations were hurting. So we were very, very, very vulnerable. And I don't need, like, I barely know how we got through that, but we did. and pressed through. So I guess as far as like decision making and stuff, I worked with what we had, Polarbot, Colonel AJ. We had Morbid that came back with us as well. We had Shack Attack. We had oh my goodness, what was it? There's one other general that I know stands out.
Arfin was a big Arfie.
Arfin, yes, Arfie, that's his name. I miss him a lot too. He's been kind of inactive, but we had so many people that started stepping up, and I pretty much went to Haiyooo and I said, "Hey, listen, you need to come back," because I couldn't do it alone with Storm, and he was very busy, and I couldn't just do it by myself. I had too much going on with my corporation. The SPC was falling apart, so there was just so much going on. So I begged Haiyooo to come back, and he did, and we tag teamed it from there on out, and we started to rebuild the military and really get it back on its feet again. Doctrines, everything. I mean, we have all the doctrine page. I designed that myself. The military Discord I designed. Pretty much everything, all the structure that we needed, I put it down, and then all it was putting these amazing people back into play, and they just took off, and it was awesome to see. We did that, and that kind of helped us get through the war that we had with NSF. It was very short, fortunately, and that worked out pretty well. So in the timeline of things, that's when the transitional government was introduced. I digress, though. I mean, I'm just rambling on here.
Yeah,
it all starts to blend together. So, but yeah, that. I guess you can kind of gauge what kind of activity I had in GHA through all of that. And,
I think a key component, like if you were to ask me, where did you first meet Zel and GHA, other than him coming with Dark Horde? The first notable thing that I could point out in my mind, and granted it turns to mush after time, right? But it was you taking over the Discord and effectively building the Discord. Storm had the server but never did anything with it, right? And you built the organizational foundation that became the GHM Discord.
What's going to happen to the Discord, by the way? Are you gonna just leave it?
I have no idea. Yeah. I left it in the hands of whoever. I left all the foundation, all the sheets, everything, all the spreadsheets that I made. All that can go to whoever wants it. That's left in GHA. I'm more than happy to pass it along, and the admins have control of GHM now. So,
not me.
yeah,
that's too much work.
So how you talk about your influence in the GHA and some of the decisions and motivation you've had.
Right. So like I mentioned, Xanadu was one of the founding corps of the GHA. And from its inception, I'm trying to remember. I think I was like a day 4 starter. I wasn't a day 1 starter for sure. But I came in pretty soon and started the earliest grind. But I really had to get my taste for PvP and what these guys are doing in Eve Echo's brand new game, we were getting raided by, I believe it was a Polish group, KORP.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Corp.
Yeah, Corp was raiding us, and with Caracals, I think, at the time, right? It's funny to laugh at now. Like, oh, you were 4 Caracals raided you? What? But I mean, that's what happened, and so there was a couple fleets where it was like chaos, and I took over a couple times on comms and kind of pinged everybody into Discord, and it really just that's I started had people poke me, hey, we need some military leadership. Are you interested? And they started talking to me, and I'm like, man, I've got 2 kids. I don't know if I can commit that kind of time because I'm from EVE Online. When you tell me, someone's an FC, that means they spend way too much time in this game, right? So I was really hesitant, I guess, at the very beginning, and they ended up like before I even made a decision, all of a sudden Raw Dog and USA, what was their corp name? Right,
USSF.
USSF. Yeah, they kind of appeared, and it was great because I'm like, you know what, cool, he can get it going. I'll be glad to help, but I don't have that time commitment, So I thought, if look what happened. But so that's kind of where I got my start, was just helping out. They said Raw's going to be the admiral, and I said cool. And at one point, I was doing a lot of YouTube streaming. I have my own channel that I was doing, and so they were like, "Well, hey, can you make some videos and some training?" Because it was all about training. Because I mean, to use bad English, nobody knew nothing about what was going on when it comes to PvP, and so we had to really kind of get a foundation. And I'm like, I don't think videos are the way to learn to PvP. I think you get an interest to PvP from watching videos and watching content, but I certainly don't think you learn the fundamentals of PvP. So that's how it's essentially started. And I was kind of like, I don't know that I want to be a videographer or a training captain for the military, but it was about that time that Raw kind of was like sidelined and said, no, you know what, we're going to make this 3 admiral position, and I want Storm and Haiyooo to be, we're all co-admirals. We're equals is the word I guess I'm looking for, and so that's what I kind of stepped up, and we started making some progress with training up FCs and getting rank structure. We were still operating on the same Discord and didn't go that far, but we definitely made improvements. And I actually kind of departed from Cash and went to Geminate because it was out of control. Right before Dark Horde got there, the guys, I guess it was NSF, right? The people that would be LGC and TFX were actually in Geminate. So they were getting hit by VVV pretty hard in the early days. Everybody was in the NPC station. There's 2 NPC stations in Geminate. Thank you, NetEase. We appreciate that. Your abundance of stations, but they're both in the same system. So that region is a little neglected.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little silly, but that whole region could get shut down early game real quick. But it was good and got us our first taste of war. Got Randall Thorn and Polobot actually were some of my first FCs that started coming up through the program because they were in fleets with me attacking VVV in the early parts of the bot wars. So yeah, that's where I kind of come from. I've tried to stay out of politics and leading anything other than fleets and the setting up the military. But unfortunately, here at the end, I can say that leading the military turned into, well, it is. At the highest levels of the military is politics. I mean, that's in real life and in this game. Because it's a sandbox, right? But it's a war sandbox. We build ships that have guns. We don't build ships that have hugs. So.
Right.
Yeah, there's no escaping it.
I don't know if, where I'm missing. I would say, the motivation for me, and I think I'm pretty consistent among this. At least I would hope everybody said it's content. It's I want people to have a good time, and there's no better joy for me in this game than that thanks FC after a fleet, right? The good fights, or thanks FC for taking the fleet out. Those kinds of comments and that gratitude. That's what makes my day. When we get some kills, or even if we just go out and do things together, if it's PvE, whatever it is, having a group of people say, "Hey, thanks for the fleet." That's my motivation for staying as a leader.
Yeah, that's definitely good to have. And how about you, Neon? What's your influence in the GHA?
In case people didn't listen last time, I started with university, Golden Horde University, working together with Avalia of Eve University. We had some good success. I've later on turned it over. I've given it to a huge shout out to Anko. He took it over, and he's been doing a fantastic job with it, like training everything. But so with marketing side, media side, I started with propaganda. We had decent success. If you remember, when we had the Battle of 8-Spin, that was like the golden age of our propaganda. If you go back to look at Reddit, to Golden Horde Alliance account, you can see like the first few posts. We had huge success. Like we were able to drive the message through. We were trending a lot, and those infamous posters they were really, really popular. And that was last time when we spoke. And then we started losing people. This is what I said last night as well. But we lost everyone basically, and I had to and then it became like I had to justify myself and keep everybody happy. It was just like me against everybody, and that was not fun. It used to be like people like Bo and Raw, and I mean Haiyooo was there the whole time, so Haiyooo too. And I mean it was mostly Bo. He would just private message me on okay, let's push this message out, and then I would share it with the team, and then we will create a poster, we'll create the messages, we'll go on the Reddit to start a campaign. But obviously when around Christmas time, I think Bo left, and there was no more, and all of our designers left. I saw some comments from people last night is they're sort of blaming me for that. I sort of do take the blame, because I decided at that time it was too much. I didn't have time to, especially on my own, I could not do it. It was just too much work, and I decided to quit Discord. I focused on, I believe I told most of the people that I was going to focus on interviews, and I think it was around that time too. I got involved with the devs in the creator, as a content creator on the official Eve channel with Joseph, and that's when I started to focus more that way. Like I wanted to become a liaison between the devs and the players. So I wanted to focus again. So the content I was making was sort of like you, like mostly like interviews and talking to people. And a shout out to Odin Cardinal. He suggested that this is again to basically last month before this whole thing fell apart. He's always been there for me. Like he made some great suggestions. He appeared on the show multiple times. He was like, "Oh, you should interview EC members." And the admirals, and the upcoming FCs like Shack Attack and all those everyone. He had so many ideas, and I did. I reached out to everyone, and just nothing worked out. So for like months there, since I think it was Chinese New Year, so late January till like basically last month, we couldn't book anyone. Like nobody was interested. Just last word is I think Echo sort of went through the same thing too. Like when I look at the creators, the dev channel, there wasn't much new content. Like there wasn't many new patch. I guess after T9 especially, like there was nothing really new. Like so the last few contents I did was testing stuff, testing the T9 battleships on the test server, and that was it. Like I couldn't do much else. So yeah. That brings us to but yeah.
So the big story that I've been literally going around the galaxy and asking people, and I've talked to GenFed, I've talked to SHH, I'm in trying to get talks with Pantheon and Void on their perceptions of this war. Granted, you know, and if you heard my previous interviews with Mama and Ozure and True Beast, you know, everybody's got it may be similar to a point, but it's kind of like nobody knows why this is even happening. So there's a lot of confusion as to why this war is even going. So I wanted to reach out to you, Zel, and to get your perception of this war. How did this war even start?
Oh man. Well, if you really look at how it started originally, I really believe that it started between GenFed and DP, obviously, because they have been going at it for so long, and that just transitioned into a continued war in the South. So that's kind of where the sparks were starting, right? They were fighting down south. And then for GHA, we started to kind of flip a little bit on how we were going to do things once the new EC was put in place. So I can really draw it down. If TLDR, we actually entered into the war because we were defending Void. That's where we drew the line, and we said we're not going to stop. And granted, it wasn't initially. There was a situation that had come up where we believed that Void was going to be attacked by Genesis, and that's kind of where the spark started there for us to enter into a war down south. And Genesis, Void was telling us, hey, our citadel is reinforced. We have reason to believe that Genesis is coming. There's a bunch of, Genesis pilots in the system or, scouting us out. Can you come and defend us? And that's when Kaolin reached out to Genesis and said, hey, you need to let us know, are you guys planning to hit this citadel? Because we were still blue with them at the time. And our relationship evolved with Void beyond that of, our blues that we had. We started categorizing people into different types of relationships, and Void fell into like this best friend relationship. Earlier I mentioned that we had a war with a civil war internally, and the only people that really were able to assist us during those times was Void. Even prior to that, when we were being pressured or if we needed help against VVV, Void continued to be there for us. So that relationship really evolved, and it became like it was going to be no matter what, we would defend Void against anybody. Like we will drop you to neutral if you decide to attack Void, essentially, if you were blue with us, and that's what we stuck with, right? So we let them know in advance and said, hey, if you guys are planning to do this, we'll have to go neutral for the duration of the fight, and then after that we can reestablish our standings, and to be fair, it did not seem like Genesis was actually going to, attack that citadel in the end, and they didn't. But that's where the sparks started to fly, right? Because it didn't really sit right to our allies that we'd be willing to drop them to neutral for Void. So anyway, that evolved with Void and Genesis. There was I can't really get too much into how Void and Genesis began to attack each other. It was a lot of different things that were said. It seemed to have stemmed there, and then Void into the war and began to assist their allies, which is Han, and their allies, which was F1 and the others, against their war against Genesis. So. Like we said, we would stick with our word. GHA was sitting there, and we were recovering from our civil war. And then, it just made sense to us if anybody was going to come and attack Void, we would always defend them, right? So that was our agreement with Void. We had it written down in stone. And like I said, they were the cause of so many awesome things for GHA and helping us to sustain ourselves again. So when push came to shove, and Void was out assisting their allies. There was mercenary contracts against Void to go and hit their citadels, but we didn't let that happen. Anytime mercs would come around, we would defend them, and that was really the spark, I'd say, of what started us entering into the war initially. Diplomatically, things were starting to tank. I'm not going to go into too much of that. Everybody's seen and has their own opinions on it. From what I've seen, we were defending Void. Obviously, Genesis is not going to like that, so we're going to go to war with each other. It's just natural, right? You can't be blue if you're defending if you're defending, against their attacks of our blues, right? So they're not going to allow that. Obviously, it's not. I get it, right? We need to address a situation like that, and we were not going to bend and say that we're not going to defend void. So that's how it really started, and that's how it was for a while. We were on defense. We played defense really well. We managed to defend void against a lot of situations. And then when those contracts ended, we were kind of just left there. We didn't really have much else to do. And I mean, I'm sure Haiyooo can attest that the defense that we played was like, it really sparked a new fire in GHA. We had just endured that civil war conflict. Things were rebuilding, and then all of a sudden we get all this content right next to our home base. We were fighting Pew. We were fighting. We were just fighting MC, and we were just having so much fun defending. And then it brought our Russian brothers together because we had the Russian bloc that had just joined us, and we really just unified and became this we became this powerhouse. Guys like Zakat and LaCoy stepped up there, Georium. All of these players started to come together because of that, and it was a beautiful thing. So once everybody was gone, we're like, all right, what do we do now? And that's when I remember the biggest thing that happened was Oz and Pyro approached the executive council, which I wasn't a part of. No. That is actually when I became prior to all of that, I somehow managed to get from the Transgov down to Admiralty, and then back up into Executive Council because my co-CEO Slits stepped down. Yeah, so I got voted into there because everybody they just wanted me in there. So the biggest thing was. Pyro and Oz came and approached us with this proposal and said, "Hey, we're having fun. Blood Horde and the others, they're going down and they're running incursions in Genesis space. Let's just go out and get some more content because we want to just keep this rolling." And that's how the WX proposal came about. Oz had taken the reins because like they said, they wanted to prove themselves. And there was a lot of internal strife already through all of this. There's still the internal strife of corporations, that wanted to contribute in some way and prove that they did, because people were saying, oh, we're a military powerhouse now, and we need everybody to contribute so that we can capitalize this and continue to improve, our competitive means in this game, right? Because a democracy is not usually able to compete like a dictatorship in EVE Online. It's just a known fact, right? So there was all that internal strife going on. So Oz comes out and they're like, hey, we're going to show you guys that even though we're small and we can't really put too much numbers on the field, we're gonna throw Citadel in their faces. And we have the EC said, okay, we thought about it. We talked with the other admirals. Haiyooo was strongly against that. I remember that.
Yeah, he said it.
He's definitely an advocate against it. But I talked with the others, and what did we have to lose, right? We weren't going to dedicate so much defense to it. At least that was the plan. To where we would sacrifice our home systems. That was the plan. So. So we said, let's just throw it out there and have some fun, and we'll have Citadel in Genesis space, and if it blows up, it blows up. It was completely a sacrificial Citadel. We had no intentions of moving into that system. Where people may say it was an extermination campaign, I purely viewed it for content. That was that's literally what you do, and you provoke people, you poke them, and then you have fun. That's just what you do. And unfortunately, we had some critical errors. The drop went very smoothly, but what didn't go well with it was that we had an error of making sure that our citadels were not coming out of reinforcement. Hindsight's always 2020. We did mention it, but for some reason that did not get translated over to some of these corporations. Who still reinforce their citadel, and then and they just literally, if you want to say the prime moment that really screwed us over, that was that moment. It was like, wow, we had 3 citadels come out of reinforcement as we were dropping the citadel, and then Pantheon just says, they stroll right through our space. I mean, it's like, oh, hey, there's 3 citadels coming out here. And they took advantage of it. So they threw them all into Hull, and they threw them all into armor and then Hull the next day, because we had to go and defend WX when it came out of Anchor, so which was successful. So anyhow, we screwed up there. And then it became highly apparent that we still had our old, a lot of the corporations were still running on old timers, Hull reinforcement timers, because they were all in the U.S. prime time, which used to be our prime. But, since the Civil War, that quickly changed, and we became this Russian, Euro, and even Chinese prime alliance. Like we were really, really strong, and then we had, naturally our new allies and ACR and stuff were also very strong in that time zone. So those 3 citadels, we accepted, hey, it was a mistake. We didn't do well with that. We'll wash our hands and just do what we can for them, because they were in US prime and our weakest time zone. Thereafter, we quickly amended that, though. I mean, we were quickly announcing to all the other corporations, hey, you need to fix your timers before anything else happens. But anyhow, that's really, I guess, how we got into the offensives and how we kind of started getting to the point that we were today, where we are today. We really tried to push the boundaries, and we made some mistakes, and those mistakes compounded into some more mistakes on corporations, and yeah, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
Yeah. And Haiyooo, what's your perception in your position? What's your perception of the war?
Yeah, so and I'm gonna have a disclaimer here. I am a PvP officer in Xanadu. My thoughts, beliefs, and comments here may not represent those of my corporation. But start of the war. So the start of the war, the bot wars became. The bot wars were anti-bots, but how do you say this? The coalition quickly becomes scrutinized for only going after bots, or the perception that they were going after bots and corporations only of Asian descent, right? So as the bot war drug on, it became almost a rhetoric that, hey, we're going to stop these insert Chinese name botters. And that rhetoric was very anti what the Horde stood for. We had Asian Corps, we had Asian Alliance within our own alliance at that point in Horde, and that wasn't what we joined the bot wars for. And that was the message when the Angel Cartel Republic formed, which is really spearheaded by Hedo Han, which is not from Han Alliance, right? Zel, help me out here. He's actually F1, right?
Yeah, he's F1 Dragon.
Right, F1 Dragon. So when ACR formed, they said that, there's a couple of things here. There's been some real biasness on this bot wars thing against DP, that they've kicked the bots. This needs to end. This has really turned into a land grab from GenFed, and DP and the whole group being pushed out of any space in that southeast corner. ACR, formed that Angel Cartel Republic to say, no, that's we're going to go to war over this. This is wrong. You can't just unify against all of the Asian alliances down here. Well, ACR with F1 Dragons was very good friends with Void. They had been living together, like in the same cohabitation region-wise, for I don't know, almost since the start of the game, right? Like for quite a long time. And it actually had been a problem, as was one of the admirals. Death Phantom was our enemy because we were helping GenFed and Silent attack. That was one of the targets of the body, and they were living in some of the Void stations. So it was like some awkward conversations with some of our friends, Sarpedin and the Void group that had actually came Catskull Academy, and that Catskull, the whole group that had left the Horde, were now in Void, and we're having some really awkward conversations about, hey, your blues are there, but they're red to me. This is awkward. So it was a little bit of friction for me as an admiral, like, hey, I've got targets in your systems, and this creates a problem because you're blue to me. I was really kind of stressing the fact, like, hey, I don't know if I can be friends with Void. This seems kind of one way. They're harboring essentially an enemy. But that perception for me changed about the time the Civil War happened, and Void was the only group that really, really came to our aid with any force. I had come back to the Admiralty as like Zel said, the behest of him and my CEO and others to say, hey, no, we want you back, please. Civil War, right before the Civil War, we really want you back. And that Civil War, at least for me, that first night of the Civil War when NSF attacked and reinforced a bunch of citadels, obviously that gave us 24 hours before a whole bunch of timers, because they had ran the interceptor fleets, right? So long story short, Void helped us, because I personally had a fleet open for about 13 hours that next day, going after their one citadel or outpost, and them healing or letting all of our outposts heal that they had already previously hit. So I had a huge respect for Piper and Moxon and the group that I would learn to come and love as I worked with them in that Civil War. So when they started asking for help from these mercenaries, like, hey, we stand. They had this message, and Piper it really had a message. We stand by our friends. That's it. That's what we live and breathe by in this game. We stand by our friends. And so when they came and helped us, I had a debt in my heart, and my gratitude for them coming up and helping me with those CTAs, that I pushed it. I pushed it again with the EC. I pushed it with our every group we talked to. Like, no, we gotta put support into this war. Void helped us, and really, I owe part of our existence to them stepping up to help us. He is kind of what triggered World War One, right? If we learn from history, World War One was one person stepped into this person's house, and it caused that uncle of the friend who had an agreement with the other brother that said, no, you shot that king who. It was what's the good word? A domino effect, I guess, is what I'm looking for. Where by this triggered that treaty, that triggered this treaty of this group friend. So it really, to me, it was kind of World War One-esque, where it was like all these groups kind of went to war, and it made blocks. Really, it's like huge blocks of groups that were now at war because of their different treaties. And I would say that the Horde tried to stay like the United States in World War One. We tried to stay out of it. We like Zel said, we were just coming out of our Civil War. We were kind of like an isolationist. Like, listen, you guys are really good friends. We're going to shoot the mercenaries, but we really don't want to get involved in this, because honestly, at the time, we didn't think we could afford to. Not ISK-wise, but we didn't think we had the manpower and the really just the capability of handling another war at that point. Well, lo and behold, it was actually the best thing that ever happened to the Horde, right? And as a military, those mercenary contracts that were originally against Void quickly got turned to us, and then the contracts, even when their contracts were up, they wouldn't leave the area because we were such great content, right? So they just stayed here, and it really helped sharpen our swords. All the people that had kind of been living fat, dumb, and lazy, as I'd like to say, not getting challenged, not getting raided, well, that changed. For the first time, the poor region of Angel Space was being raided, because normally nobody would want to go there. It was a waste of their time, So it was ironic that those mercenary contracts really had some FCs stepped up. Because you got to have battles and you got to have fleets for these FCs to gain experience, and those mercenary contracts gave us that. So super appreciative, and shout out to Mercenary Coalition and then No Alliance and Pew and Tahini. They really helped us. They really helped us cut some dead weight. They really helped drive some people to PvP. And then, we grew on our own hubris as I was going with I don't think we need to go on the offense. Let's stay on the defense. Let's continue to develop ourselves like we're doing. But at the point, there was a time in this war where Gen Fed had zero structures. Well, yeah, I guess they can say they have the one because the Corp left us. But they had no structures. So they were really confined to NPC stations, and the coalition, it's like, well, hey, let's make a hard push. We'll destroy all their bases. They won't be able to rat. We'll keep at their allies, who Query's coalition at the time. We'll just keep putting pressure, their ally support off, and we'll just have this war over in a week. And we're going to drop a bunch of citadels right on their doorstep, so we'll have staging grounds. So it was like this whole plan, and really it was kind of sold on like, this is the major push we need to end this war. And that's not how the story went. So I don't think I need to rehash how the story went, but I feel like, the turning point going on the offense was because really we wanted it to end, right? We're like, okay, this is really stagnant. There's not a whole lot of excitement here. Let's be done with this. And that's what the goal was, really, is why I eventually, signed off on the WX thing. I was like, all right, just drop it. If Hedahan and the group really thinks we can push and shut this down in a week, let's do it. Let's throw everything we got at it. Well, as history will tell us, we threw everything we had at it. And I was actually out of town that weekend, so I had no idea until I came back on Monday, and my corp is poking me, hey, do you know our citadel's in Hull? And I'm like, no, I don't. When does the timer come out? Oh, like in 36 hours. What? So it was an unfortunate timer. Just like you said, it happened on a Saturday and a Sunday, and it popped out on a Tuesday. So it was or I think technically Wednesday, maybe, I'm not sure. But regardless, it didn't give us a lot of time to prepare or get the allies, deployed right, because we had been focused in the south. Nobody had ships and assets in the north to deal with what we were going to face. And then I think my real perception of this is we gave Pantheon and Genfed the victories that they needed. I hate to say we threw the interception that they needed, but it's really what turned the tide of the ball game. Yeah. I mean, that just lit them up to a level of activity that I think they hadn't really seen. And then for them to be able to stage in Kenora like they were able to and really push. I mean, they obviously did a hell of a job of staging the materials and having the people in the ships and committing to the timers. But that first loss of the Xanadu Citadel was the first one to go down in 8MG. It was huge. It was huge for them. It was a huge moral victory for them, and they deserve a round of applause for that and the growth that they got for it, for sure. But essentially, I mean, I think that kind of sums it up. I think there was a lot of we didn't want this. We were never in this to eliminate the Asian alliances, because again, we had I say had, I guess it should be past tense. The Horde had a major Russian and a major Asian component, and we did not want to be part of any bot war campaign that had any kind of bias like that. So, we wanted to set the record straight. So that's when we exited that coalition, the bot war coalition, or Eve coalition. And I think that was really the precipice of saying, hey, this is wrong. We're not cool with this. We want to stay neutral, but you shot our friends, and and that's what triggered all these treaties that really got us sucked into it.
Yeah.
I do have to give a shout out to my corp, though, because again, I'm if I say anything unmuzzled, I'm going to get yelled at, but that's all right, because I'm going to give a shout out. Xanadu was an industrial corporation that was started with the goal of having like the first trade center, like ITC. So I want to preface that this corporation was all about industrial. There wasn't really much of a PvP element. When the 8MG fight happened, Xanadu alone had 1.5 fleets of their own. They had almost 70 characters online in that battle. So I'm super proud of what the Corp has done and what they've become, and I owe a lot to that to Geminate. We left from the back corner of Cache where we'd see one raider, and it was usually a cloaky camper, till we went to the front door of Geminate and BWF, and it really changed my corporation, and I've loved seeing them step up, and we actually got a great FC out of it. Kisten, he really developed as an FC and has taken a role himself. So I have to give a shout out that the miners threw down the lasers and picked up the tornadoes.
Nice.
Yeah, very nice. So let's segue that into the next topic then is how does the war affect the current gameplay for the players? Haiyooo.
Right. So I don't want to say it's a past war. Are we calling the war past tense? Is it over for us? I mean, I guess it's over for me because I'm neutral to everybody now. But for sure, I think with the insurance patch, it left a lot of industrials kind of looking around like, why am I mining for 10 million an hour in a retriever or procure? So I think it was almost a necessity for this war to happen. Again, we know Eve and New Eden is a PvP game. I mean, yes, there is PvE elements, but those are to fund PvP needs. And I think that the industry taking such a nerf left nullsec, and industrialists just with no other option. But I might as well try this PvP crap out. It's not even worth mining right now. Nobody's buying a ship with the first iterations of the insurance. So I think it was a necessity, and I think the leadership saw that. The member counts kind of dwindled right before the war really kicked off. So I think it was absolutely important that the war happened. And this, if there's anything to be said about nullsec, I can guarantee you in 6 months it's not going to look the same, and then a year from now it's not going to look the same. Mm-hmm. So I'm really excited that these kind of wars are happening, and that we're starting to flesh out the content and really see these fleets happen. I'd really love that we have not such huge blocks. I want to see smaller skirmishes and less tie-dye style fights. I don't think anybody truly enjoys that. I think the people enjoy the outcome of the battle, but nobody enjoys that fight when it's just laggy and black screen after black screen or crash after crash. So I think it's brought us to an interesting diplomacy state. We have essentially a huge blue donut, and then you look at ACR and that group there. It's going to be interesting next 2 weeks to see what happens with Void and ACR now that the Horde, who in the last, Zel, what has it been, a month and a half that we took the brunt, we took the beating, we took the mercenary contracts, we took all of the Pantheon and Gen Fed attention. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, really.
And Zel, do you have any comments on that, on the current gameplay for the players?
Yeah, like how you said, wars are needed for players to evolve, right? Echoes is still really early in its timeline, and there was a lot of strategies that weren't really being used. And then, you take like the battle like LG TAC, right? That was the first time I had ever seen, more advanced tactics being used in battle, and I can attest that too, because you need them in order to win, right? They were. You look at Pantheon and Genesis; they were going to take us on in our prime time. Like that was one of the timers that we had more confidence in, because it was going to be in a time where we could have all our allies, and it was on the weekend. And I was just hats off to them. They played it fantastically. It even started on a level like maybe many people don't know, but Genesis flew out of their staging point over in BZ TAC over 80 plus jumps to create a facade that they were not going to come and fight us over for this timer. It was incredible. I followed them with my spy. I had alts on comms, and they created this huge ruse that they were going to focus on BX TAC. And they took this long roundabout through all the way through period basis up into low sec, and then all the way across to Kenora to be there just to make sure that we were going to displace our forces. And I had never seen that before, right? It was really incredible. So like I said, wars are needed for us to evolve. I love me being an FC from EVE Online. I love being able to face opponents like that. That is my favorite kind of thing in EVE, is being able to see people play a little bit more on the macro scale and bring all these new concepts out. And then on top of that, it's good for the players. You look at Echoes right now, and like how you said, it's been a little bit of a struggle with the insurance program. People are losing interest. We've been bleeding players out of the community every single day. We need these kind of wars to make things happen, to bring people together and actually give them a reason to play, and to help sustain us through these darker times. I really enjoy seeing these wars kind of happen and seeing the battles that come out of it.
So I'm going to turn the topic now to probably the largest topic to happen in the past week, and that's this kind of implosion of the GHA. What is happening with the GHA? I know last week several large corporations had basically said, well, I'm done. I'm out of here. I'm going elsewhere. What's going on with the GHA?
There's it's hard to say where it starts, right? Because like I was mentioning earlier, this has been going on for a long time in GHA, since like the first Civil War. Even before that, when we had the issues with the SPC, right? There was a big issue with contribution, who's doing what, who's not doing enough, and people that are doing too much. And it was like it just attributes to the fact that the government we were trying to run, it's very hard to compete with because it demands a lot of time out of people. I think everybody can really attest to that. A democracy is very hard to maintain. That it's very hard to maintain in general because you have to take in so much time to facilitate different opinions. You have to take in so much time just to write things out and put it on paper and explain to everybody why it's the right thing to do, and then you have to argue about it and have debates because everybody has an opinion and everybody has a vote. There came a point where like the people who were working really hard started getting battered around, and then they're already getting drained out from having to facilitate all these discussions.
Yep.
And then on top of that we have a war that's going on, and then so you just, all these things started to compound, at least for me. I can really only speak from my perspective and why I decided to pull out my corporation. I was spending a lot of time on Discord all the time, and I was spending a lot of time doing all these management things that just really sucked away my time from the game. The things that I enjoyed doing, and then just one day, LJ, the Battle of LJ TAC, thereafter. It was just like one of the biggest things about GHA, and I'm sorry, it really sucks, is that when people get dragged into these discussions, they turn into heated debates, and then they just start slinging things at each other versus focusing on the problems. And it's too easy to play, typing warrior, and just say whatever you want to say because nobody's looking at you and nobody has to hold you accountable, right?
Yeah.
And I had expressed it in our last all hands meeting. I said, the EC doesn't need more power. We just need people to step up and work out these problems, right? We need to focus on trying to get ourselves, in more of a place for centralized taxation or contributions in some way, and figure out a way to make sure that we're evolving our fleets, because we still have people showing up in like 50 frigates, for some of these fights. And it was just showing that we were behind, right? That was how Genesis and Pantheon were able to fight that battle, 350 to 400 players versus 1,000 players, because they were so evolved with their doctrine. They had the right ships on the field. It became a lot more apparent how we were still not catching up. It was very difficult to catch up. So instead of focusing on those problems, people were throwing things at each other and throwing things at me, and I just said, why am I doing this? why am I spending so many hours only to get beat down sometimes? And granted, I had a lot of support, obviously, but I just got really tired, and I said, this is not worth it for me anymore. I need to step back and actually focus more on my corporation, stop sacrificing them, and then actually figure out a way to enjoy the game. Otherwise, I'm not going to play it anymore. It was just that, and I'm sure many other people have reached that point in GHA, at least. That is the legacy of democracy. It's burning people out. If there's not enough people to manage it.
Yep.
So yeah, that's. I pulled my corporate. I made the announcement. I said the very next day, I'm not going to be running EC anymore. I'm not going to be running any more military anymore, and my corporation's going to be leaving. And I announced later that my corporation is going to be leaving GHA, and from there it just sort of started to domino, right? Because it was at just the right point. The Pantheon and Genesis had this big victory against us, and I think I might have put the final nail in the coffin there because shortly after I resigned, Haiyooo stepped down. I think within the hour because he's like, I'm not going to do this anymore either. And the resignations just started really piling in thereafter. So yeah.
I want to broach that, because I get asked that all the time. Why'd you step down? Why'd you leave? And I would just give to most people that I didn't care to give the time of day to, because Zel left, and I don't. It seems like a cop out, and I really don't think it is, because people don't understand. So Zel was an admiral, and like I said, he asked if I'd come back, and I said sure, man, and let's do this together. He's very supportive. We step for step. Okay, you're going to work on this. Okay, I'm going to work on that. I was able to work on the Discord when he was asleep or at work, and vice versa. We really tag teamed it. That was a good word. We were able just to be in step. And then, like I said, with the coalition. There was some illness in the coalition with some of the leaders, so they were out of the game, and it really turned into where the Horde was leading the charge, so to speak. And I say the Horde, I mean Zel, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the background just to make a coalition work, but a coalition across time zones and across multiple regions. Zel was doing. I'm not even going to pat him on the back and say phenomenal work, because that wasn't what it was about for me. Yes, he was doing a great job, but the amount of hours and time that he put into that, and to go back to when Zel was an admiral with me, when it was him, I, and Storm, and hit the slot came open on the EC when Slit stepped down, and we talked to him, and I had a conversation on the side. And I'm like, Zel, dude, I think one of the best things you can do for the military is get into the EC and help people understand that this is a war game, and I need you on that council. I don't need you as an admiral. You can still do most of the, you can still take fleets and be involved in the military from the EC side, but I need somebody on that council that truly understands war, right? And the art of it. And Zel does. He gets it. He's a great tactician and fleet commander. And put the time into it and put the hours into it. So when people think I copped out and I saw Zel left and I stepped down shortly thereafter, is I don't know, if you walk on 2 feet every day and you lose a leg and you have to take a seat. I think that's what it felt like to me, because I knew at that time I was going to be in a wheelchair without a leg or half my body, because Zel, I mean, like I said, we tag team it, we did it together, and without that other half, he was my other half in Eve. I'm sorry, buddy. I'm getting
no, you're gonna get me emotional, man.
I don't mean it like that. I mean, there's a lot of bromance there, but at the same time, it is a real world time commitment, and I don't have that stake. My family comes first. I was actually doing the interview with Neon the other night, and my daughter, I couldn't get her to sleep before the interview started, and she was coming to me trying to get another movie started. She kept coming in, and I thought after that I was like mortified watching the interview, and I'm like, oh man, my daughter, I had to yell at her to go out of the room. That I never want to be that guy. I never want to be that dad that yells at my daughter to go away. I'm playing a video game, or much less that I'm talking about a video game on YouTube. I never want to be that dad. So
that's my fault.
Dang it, Neon. But no, I really just wanted to. I just wanted people to understand that it's not a cop-out. I saw Zel leave. I saw the writing on the wall, and I was in the conversations. Being an admiral, I was privy to the executive council and most of their discussions, and unfortunately, most of the senior leadership discussions from the different corps, the partner corporations. And they were futile. A lot of the conversations, and like you said, they degraded into mudslinging, and people, saying, well, I could do this better, or you need to do better, and they don't offer to help. Just stuff like that. It just deteriorated. So, yeah, I mean, I think people, look back and say, well, Haiyooo was an admiral once, he stepped down, and then he did it again, and I hate to have that reputation, but I'm never going to apologize for putting my family first, and the amount of time that I would have had to put into this game to fill Zel's shoes, or to put into the Horde. It wasn't worth it.
Well said.
Yeah, so Zell, was it last Monday that you pulled DIT from the GHA?
It was this past Monday that I announced I was going to be pulling DIT out.
Okay. So then after that happened, basically how did the dominoes fall? How did it, who else decided to say, hey, you know what?
Everyone.
I'm done too.
Everyone.
Yeah,
One after another.
Yeah, it really started to compound. Well, I think the next group that actually announced was Red One and Zan, right? Red One and Zan. Well, so I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like everybody was reaching out to me and saying, "Hey, you should just create a new alliance and try and lead it." And I was like, "No, I can't. I can't lead it long term. I have too much going on in my life." And when that we tried to figure out a plan to make that work so that we could still keep everybody together. But when that fell through, that's when everybody started to really pull out. And we saw Red One make their announcement, and then Zan as well. They followed Red One. I knew in the background, Home and Raid were quickly next on that line. And those are like, I mean, you look at GHA, I'm not trying to brag or anything, but DIT is one of the biggest corps in GHA. So is Red One and Zan. Raid and Home are also pretty big, and then you have Odin as well that also announced theirs. So it was just it started to get really bad thereafter. And not just that. I mean, you have people that leadership members that were key people in keeping GHA together. I mean, like shout out to Kaylin and Drake. They also pulled out, and then obviously when Odin pulls out and Red One and Zan, that's most of the FC group. That was actually in the military. So at this point, I believe the only corporations that are actually staying are the Russian Russian blocks of GHA, and I think they're looking to rebrand into something different. But say la vie, what can you do? Like how you said, you got to put your life first and figure out a way to keep you from burning yourself to the ground. So
right.
Yeah, that's really when things started to unravel.
Well, you have to look at it too for your members. You want the best for your members.
That's right.
And the leadership, it may have happened in Zan, it may have happened in Red One, it may have happened in DIT, IOP, Odin. I know Odin's got a lot of voting. They care for their members, and their leadership team just wants the best for their members. So if it happens to be leaving to join a different alliance, maybe for a different way of life, that's what they truly believe, and that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, 100%. Really looking at like I said, with GHA, like my members are very tired of all the bureaucracy and really just the lifestyle that we were imposing on ourselves, right? We played. When you look at Evil Line, you don't see democracy doing too well because of that time commitment that you have to make, and it's hard on the players. It's hard on people, us deciding to move was along those lines. We wanted to try something new, and we are. And since then, I tell you what, my corporations has not been more happier than the recent moves that we're making and kind of breaking free from GHA.
And to point out, you did note some of the larger corporations were leaving GHA. So not Odin, but Valhalla, probably just quick math, 600 plus characters, accounts. Red One, 300 plus, Xanadu, 300 plus. I think between Home, JSOC, maybe another 150 so there. And then also, I think just recently, Jolly Roger decided that they're going to rebrand. Portions of IOP are splitting off. So I think the GHA Discord kind of says it all. Like, people are just saying, I log out for 13 hours, I come back, and everything went to shit. So
yeah.
And it's basically how it was. There was an announcement about it. Literally in 24 hours, GHA lost 2,600 members.
Yeah.
And
but on the bright side, the most people who say bid their farewells have said, the memories are what they treasure. Everybody has some good memories. Everybody has. Yeah, I mean, me too.
Exactly. And from what I know, everybody that's left has probably left on good terms.
Yeah.
So there's no bad blood there. So
yeah, 100%. I mean, and like Leon said, we're all still. I mean, I invited everybody over to my Discord, and we're still good friends. Nothing's gonna. I won't forsake the time in GHA. We still had a blast when we were together, right? We formed a lot of memories, even though we were playing the way we were playing. So, I still really, really appreciated our time there and all the relationships and people that we met. It was awesome.
So let's talk about some memorable moments. Neon.
Let me go back to the beginning when I first became. Okay, so day one, I think the first week of Echo's launch, I was at a camping trip, and people approached me, Bo and J-Ski and Arch. These were the main guys of Valhalla. They were like, "Oh, join us!" And then shortly after, I became a recruiter for Valhalla, and then we started building GHA, and that was like exciting time. Like everybody's just working so hard. We had literally hundreds of recruits like to deal with every day, which is Rambo, maybe something you can. I remember you talking about when you first became a recruiter too, like that overwhelming. It's tiring, extremely stressful and tiring, but it's really exciting time because you're seeing the growth, right? Exponential growth, yeah, crazy growth. That was the best memory for me. Just the growth, yeah.
Then and for me in the time in the GHA, I have a lot of good memories. I don't really have any bad memories, but referring to Who's a Fish's Talking in Stations episode that you had the other day, the whale pod incident that Radar had brought up, and as he was talking about it, I just remember thinking like, man, I was there.
Uh-huh.
I was literally sought out and killed because of my corp tag. And, and they put it in local and said, your death was because of Emily Snow. I'm like, well, what the heck? I'm just in Adventure 3. I was just mining in the next system over, and I went to come home, and I ended up getting shot down. And the reasoning I thought was like, okay, why am I a part of this? I have nothing to do with this. And so that's literally one of my earliest memories of GHA. And then of course the Battle of 8-Spin. I had Ozir on a couple weeks ago, and we talked about that. It's like I was there at the Battle of 8-Spin. That was my first CTA. And I'm not that proud of it, but I think I was top 15 on the SHH kill board. I was like a 13 or 14, I want to say, in a Can You prototype, which was like in just a stupidly overpriced piece of crap. And that was when I saw my name there, I was like, oh crap. But wait, at first I was number 9, and then as kill mails filtered in, and then my rank dropped, but whatever. And yeah, that was just such a great experience back in the day. And 8-Spin was the biggest battle of its time.
Yeah.
And the GHA literally threw crap at SHH and was able to fend them off. You laugh at that, but it was true.
It was, yeah. I remember.
It was kitchen sink versus a very militarized, coordinated fleet.
Yep.
And people were just bugs on the wall, just like throwing ships at them and dwindling them down or whatever, and ORC came out on top with that station being successfully defended. So that was another great. You did the propaganda behind that, and the posters, and the life in the GHA was really blooming. Back in those days.
University, because people saw what. Saw the I think we saw the video last time, right? The maneuvers, the fleet movements of SHH. It was on a different level, so a lot of people got curious, like they wanted to become better, and yeah.
So yeah, just and then it goes on to the events that were held within the GHA. So just blue on blue action. The Horde Wars was I would say, successful event. There's awards and there's placements, and the famous name Kylo Ren was there, and and he had his thoughts on it. And
bounty. I remember he had a bounty.
So yeah, he may have had a bounty on him, and it was 10 versus 10 versus 10. I don't know how many teams of 10s.
At least six.
And it was, what was it? It was just a Royal Rumble of all of these, and a couple corps came out on top. Maybe there's some bets of some favors, some lines, but a drone boat fleet won that. Yep. And then second place Reapers, and then I think and then Kylo Ren's fleet may have been third, and I don't really remember the standings. But
by the way, do you remember?
That was fun.
Do you remember who organized it?
No, I do not.
Shout out to Dragonborn. He was the organizer. He had a fleet too, but he was the organizer. Yeah, from Odin, Dragon, and 7 Dragon.
Man.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Miss that guy.
So yeah, just again, that was in the height of the Horde,
sure.
I think, in my view, and then also the raffle, and Neon. That was your doing. I think it was successful. I don't know what
it was. It was more than successful. We made a lot of ISK for the Alliance, which I did not take any. We really didn't take any. I don't know who got the money at the end. Was it Zel?
I did.
You did.
Yeah.
Okay. Just quick shout out to all the people. It wasn't just me. It was Mel. It was Bo. It was Riva. A lot of people, contributed, and Ozzy too. This goes back all the way back to Ozzy. Even so, before he left, he and I talked about this idea together, and basically drafted up the whole thing. And then, of course, he left when it happened. But yeah, quick shout out.
So yeah, those are just good memories. Zal, you got any good memories?
Yeah, man. I mean, I obviously remember my first CTA against BBV. First time we worked with Shush. That was a lot of fun. We had a lot of good fights. I guess the highlight for me was two major things. HTP, when they first dropped the first Citadel in the game, and actually successfully anchored it. That was awesome.
Oh yeah.
Easy,
I remember.
Yeah, that was really fun to be able to be a part of. Those guys are great. Shout out to them, Polobot, Greg. I mean, they stayed to the very end of GHA. They were trying to still hold everything while everything was falling from underneath them. And then what takes the cake for me was the first Citadel kill, the Corporation Citadel kill that GHA got. And we definitely flew pretty far for that one. We were playing music on comms. I took our Euro guys, I took our Russian block, and then we took Void. And we went straight into Fountain, straight into Boop and Pantheon Space. Busted a gate camp and then proceeded to blow up a Citadel gloriously, while they formed like 250 people again to stop us. So yeah, we had a great time. It was one of the best fights I had ever had in Golden Horde, and I'll not forget it. And then LJ was another really good fight. Just really really good memories. Loved it.
Rambo. Maybe he's away. How about? Sorry.
Yeah. How about you, Haiyooo?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, my biggest, I guess, the reason I keep coming back to this game is when people say thanks FC and then get to enjoy their time in the game because it's something I helped put together. But I think even at another level, when people become FCs and they get that thanks FC from their time with me, and even after the Civil War, Randall had delivered that message to me, and writing. He took the time to write after he said, even though we're not on the same side anymore, I just want you to know that first CTA I went on with you is what got my quench for PvP and my thirst, and now that's all he does. And the same for a lot of the different guys. I think that's the most memorable part. I mean, there was plenty of fleets and things we've done. Obviously the 8MG battle was a huge battle and a memorable moment. Seeing my corp blossom from Venture 3s and Retrievers to Tornadoes. But I guess I just have to feel like a proud dad, in the sense of seeing so much development and the people that I worked with over the last 6-8 months. I guess since it was August 13th, right? Was the go live day. So shortly after that, when I started, I just a huge shout out and thanks to all the people that flown with me, and then I hope they continue to enjoy the game from the things we've learned and grown together.
Yeah, awesome guys. So Zel, what's your plans for the future?
I'm going to have fun. No, I mean, I can't say that I didn't enjoy leadership, right? I obviously enjoyed it to be able to do it for as long as I did. But I'm definitely going to take a break from it. I'm just going to focus on, enjoying what I can with my corporation. And, we've rebranded to Rage and Ruin for a reason, because we want to focus on content and continue to having fun together. So we're moving as well. I guess I can announce here, at least everybody should know by now that Rage and Ruin has joined Happy Bees, so we're going to be moving over to Delve, and we're going to be looking forward to some really good fights with everybody from Delve. So if you see a RX2 in local, you better be careful. It might be coming for you.
Yeah, certainly. And then how about you, Haiyooo? What's the future hold for you?
Right. So again, I think we've had our announcement pretty public at this point that we're joining Silent Alliance proper, with Red One. We've grown near and dear and close to Red One and their group of players, so we will be basically sister corps in the Silent Alliance. We're going to be living together and growing together and starting this next chapter. So pretty excited about that. But I can tell you personally, I'm going to focus on some intercorp growth. I hadn't properly made money in this game in probably the last three months. I'm going to do a little bit of that. I've been doing a little bit of that, but I think the highlight, Rambo, I was listening to your interview with True Beast and talking about content creation. I've really got a thirst for my YouTube channel again, and streaming some PvP. So not being an admiral, I think will be a blessing, and hopefully I can start to do a little less Discord, a little more YouTube.
Nice.
Awesome. Sounds good. And then how about you, Neon? What's the future hold for you?
I want to keep doing my show, interviews, and get more into. They haven't formally announced it yet, but they're gonna launch this CSM-like role, like in EVE Online, where I can play more of a role between the players and the developers. I think I've been pretty good at that. So vote for me then. No, actually, they're not gonna have a vote. Anyways, we'll see when the announcement comes out. Let me just quickly say I don't know where I'm going yet. I'm a goon for life, so the most reasonable, logical place is to follow Zel into Happy Bees because staying a goon. And just anywhere, I'm just tired of this bullcrap. This let's not call it that. Let's call it an experiment. Like Zel keep mentioning the old SPC, the console which evolved into a EC. Honestly, I think they're very similar in that there was too much drama, too much negotiations, too much voting on everything. Nothing ever got done except for Discord Orion. I think that's my take on the whole thing. I hope I never have to go through that again. I was in both channels, SPC and the EC channels. I never liked them one bit. They were just so inefficient. That's.
I think we could all agree that every person here is flipping the page to a new chapter.
Yep.
Not necessarily that the last chapter was bad, but this next chapter, of course, it's going to be a new chapter, going to experience the game differently. And that goes all the way up to from the leadership down to the members. So,
yeah, 100%. I'm looking forward to it.
Agreed.
So then, I guess my last question would be: is what do you think is going to happen to the GHA?
I mean, we're likely going to see a rebrand, obviously, and maybe from what's left, they'll try and rebuild and try something different. Hopefully, probably a dictatorship model, as we've proven with this experiment that democracies are still inefficient and still don't work. I expect to see GHA kind of rise out of the ashes as something new. That's what happens in EVE Online, and hopefully it'll be better and stronger, and it'll bring something new to the East that we can eventually have some content with. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
Haiyooo, you have a comment?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's safe to say that the GHA is no more, and that the brothers that continue to fly in that region will rebrand themselves, and I wish them the best of luck. I wish everybody that split the best of luck. I don't hold ill will for any of the unfavorable conversations, even Radar. I hope he finds happiness in this game. Special shout out there. But I think a lot of the leadership is tired because of how much a democracy took away from their game time and left them in Discord. And I think that's the Discord warrior part that Neon really points to. A lot of people enjoy it. A lot of people don't see it as bullcrap. They like writing charters. They like that kind of thought experiment. But at the end of the day, it's a game, and we want to play it and get on with it. And those kind of oligarchy dictatorships do that most efficiently. So there's no ill will or ill feelings, and I think we'll see everybody on the battlefield on one side or the other. And good luck, fly safe, everyone.
All right, and then closing thoughts or shout-outs, Zel?
Dude, I mean, like how you said, no ill will to anybody. I'm gonna miss all of you. It was really fun flying with every single pilot that we had in GHA, right? Anybody who stood with me for CTAs, anybody who stood with any of our FCs or regional generals, a special shout out to Blood Horde as well, for JR and Red Threat. I think they kind of go overlooked sometimes, but they were. I mean, I flew with Zakat and McCoy. Zakat mostly. And he leads some really fun fleets. So shout out to him for all the hard work he does, and again, like Polobot with his bloody roams. The list just goes on. We had an amazing team, and it was a lot of fun. So shout out to all of you guys, and I look forward to seeing you somewhere else on the battlefield. And hey, maybe we can have a beer and blow something up someday. That'll be fun.
Haiyooo?
Yeah, I mean, I think I gave it, and I echo a lot of it. I mean, I think me and Zel essentially had the same group of people that we grew to love and work with on a daily basis. And then I think we grew annoyed with some of the same people on the same daily basis. But I think the only thing we have left out here is our friends and allies. I think they've kind of been left out a lot of the conversation. And Sarpedin and Amox and the guys from Void, they've been really good friends. And I hate that it seems like we've crumpled and all kind of split away from them, but I don't want anyone to feel like that's bad blood with them. So I just want to give the shout out and the love to all of our friends in Void and the content coalition as they are. That we do treasure that, and it's not all for naught.
Yeah, we love you, Void. Thank you for all you've done.
And how about you, Neon? Any closing thoughts and shout outs?
I'll try to make it quick. A lot to everybody who's been part of GHA. Especially the ones who worked really hard to build a golden age when we had one. Especially I was just looking at my chat history. This is right before the Civil War. If I could do it again, I would do it totally differently. I reached out to people like Slits, people on the transitional government, even before that to Bo and everyone. I was like, this democracy is not going to work. Again, I wish I took a stronger stance then. I don't know if I had the power to stop everything or change everything, but I think I could have done more. Like I remember telling Slits that why don't we run it like a business? Why don't we run it like Valhalla, like DIT, like Zan, like all the corps? Why do we do a totally different thing when it comes to GHA, where nothing gets done? There's very lots of drama, very little things get done. So if I could just, again, and I know we can't go back, but if we could, I would convince or force or just lose it over everyone. I'm gonna say, Bo, don't leave, Raw, don't leave, Valia, don't leave, nobody leaves. Let's just own the universe. We have the best FCs, we have everybody, we have the best of everything. Don't screw it up by this democracy debating Discord warring thing model. The model is not good. So final shout out to Discord warrior. That never works for Alliance.
Shout out to everyone. Well, thank you all for being part of my show and doing this for me. And here's to a new chapter in Eve Echoes. So,
cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go blow up my Citadel tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I stopped recording.
This will be airing after.
I'm so sorry, Zel, that did